Walking down these empty streets, echoes of the past I meet. Lost and wandering for so long, searching for where I belong. Sunrise breaking through the night, guiding me back to the light. Every step feels like a prayer, promises hang in the air. Come back home, heal your heart, where the love never parts. Come back home, find your peace. In this place, your pain will cease. Memories of laughter and tears, answers to my deepest fears. In these walls I find my truth, washing away the years. Ruth, oh, the road was long and rough, but my spirit's had enough. Here in the sanctuary, healing feels extraordinary. Come back home, heal your heart, where the love never parts. Come back home, find your peace. In this place, your pain will cease. Long and rough, but my spirit's had enough. Here in the sanctuary, healing feels extraordinary. Come back home, heal your heart, where the love never parts. Come back home, find your peace. In this place, your pain will cease. Walking down these empty streets, echoes of the past I meet. Lost and wandering for so long, searching for where I belong. Sunrise breaking through the night, guiding me back to the light. Every step feels like a prayer, promises hang in the air. Come back home, heal your heart, where the love never parts. Come back home, find your peace. In this place, your pain will cease. Memories of laughter and tears, answers to my deepest fears. In these walls I find my truth, washing away the years. Ruth, oh, the road was long and rough, but my spirit's had enough. Here in the sanctuary, healing feels extraordinary. Come back home, heal your heart, where the love never parts. Come back home, find your peace. In this place, your pain will cease. long and rough, but my spirit's had enough. Here in the sanctuary, healing feels.
It's a heavy, heavy, heavy burden to deal with this how to navigate it, right? To deal with it. So let me just talk. Let me talk like this. Number one, this is personal for me because I dealt with the same thing. I dealt with this holiday grief. My mom, I lost my mother and my father and my daughter in a 5 year span of time. My father was 59 years old. My mother was 62 years old, and my daughter was 4 months old. Right, and so my mother and my father actually and my daughter passed away 4 months apart. 4 months. I was 27 years old, and I was burying my father and my daughter. Again, my dad wasn't sick. My dad was like, I was coming into that season of life when my dad was my best friend. You get into that season of life where you move from father, son, or mother, daughter. You move to that place where you're getting older. You then dealt with some life, and your parent is like your best friend in the world. And so I was at that place in life where, hey, my dad is my friend, 59, healthy. He went out one night, came back. He was sick the next day. 2 weeks later, he was gone. Probably a few days right before my birthday, and that was rough. That was very hard for me. Again, my father, excuse me. Again, my father was my best friend at that time. He was, again, and then so to lose my daughter 4 months before my father, actually 4 months before my father. Um, I had never seen my father cry until that day. He was standing over my left shoulder, and I looked back, and he was just in tears. Um, that was in 2007, right? And then I lost my mother. She died of cancer, pancreatic cancer, 10 months. Took my mother in 10 months, and that was in 2012, right? And so even in 2024, in fact, yesterday I was in the kitchen, and my blood pressure was pretty low yesterday. And I leaned on the counter, and I was trying to make my daughter a grilled cheese. I'm cutting this cheese, and I'm leaning on the counter, and I'm making this grilled cheese, and I got triggered. I got triggered because I remember my mother's last Thanksgiving in 2011, and she had cooked big meals all her life for us, right, and for her family. And I remember my mother leaning on the counter, sweating, trying to cook her last Thanksgiving meal. And I would go in the kitchen and say, Mom, let me help you. Mom, let me help you. And she knew that this would probably be her last one. So she said, you know what? She said, no, boy, get out of my kitchen. Don't worry about it. She was going to cook that meal with a body full of cancer, but she was going to get that thing done. And so yesterday, when I'm leaning on the kitchen counter trying to make my daughter this grilled cheese, um, here I am, and part of me got scared because it's like, man, my mom was sitting leaning on this counter. But then the joy, it was a mixture of pain and joy of remembering my mom's stamina, just to say, you know what, I know that I probably won't be here no more, so I'm gonna get this thing done, right? And so yesterday I was triggered with that, right? Every time I make a certain meal that she taught me how to make, I get triggered, right? And I know there's a lot of people just like me, you know, when I'm doing Christmas gifts for my children, you know, my I had triplet daughters. I had triplet daughters, and we lost one. Lydia was the oldest one. Lost Lydia at 4 months. Now my daughters are 17 now. They'll be 18 in January, right? So this was 18 years ago that I lost my daughter. But you know, still to this day, when I wrap Christmas gifts, right? I think about it should be another pile, right? One for my oldest son, Caleb, because, you know, and then another pile for Hannah and another pile for Morgan, and she'd be another pile for Lydia, right? 18 years, but I still think, and it still hurts in there, y'all. So I had to do this podcast this morning on navigating holiday grief and how to do it. And I wanted to stream to both podcasts, the dear brother and dear sister, because some of you will be cooking, be making meals this weekend. Some of you will be stirring a pot or making a certain pie. Some of you will just be sitting there, certain songs that come to your mind, and you'll break down. I want you to know this. Number one, don't think that you're wrong for breaking down. Don't think you're wrong for feeling the pain or the burden you feel from loss of people over years. And again, like I started the show, don't feel like you're wrong no matter how many years. It can be 25, 30 years you lost somebody. That grief is there. So don't fight your grief, right? If you don't remember anything else I say in this morning podcast, don't fight your grief. Don't fight your grief. Don't let anybody tell you, oh, that's been years ago. No, no. The worst thing you can do is try to not acknowledge what's going on there. If you don't acknowledge it, that's when it takes you over. If you don't acknowledge grief, that's when it really gets a hold of you, right? And so yesterday I had to acknowledge that grief. I had to sit there, and I told my lady, I was sitting there talking to my lady, and I said, you know what? And I start telling her just what I told you, the grief of remembering my mom cooking that last meal, right, with cancer, right? Remembering that, remembering my dad sitting in that same blue chair in that same blue robe every Christmas, right? Ashy legs and feet, old black man, ain't believe in lotion, right? And he's sitting there proud, looking at us open gifts. I'll never forget that. And sometimes that comes back to me. Y'all see the robe I got on right now? I got this robe, right? Because it reminded me of him. You see? See where pain can move straight to healing if you start to navigate it. If you navigate this grief process right, you'll feel the healing side of it. But that's a process. But remember, healing is a process. Healing is not just a mental decision. Healing is a process. The beginning of healing starts with a decision in your mind, but in order to go through it, it's a process. It's a heart process. It's a mind process, right? And you got to be able to know when you're in this grief process. I'll give you another one. When I lost my daughter, right? When they were triplet, we had a triplet stroller. We had three beds for the babies, 3 cribs, and 3 everything, right? And I remember around maybe around the holidays, man, doing this show, bringing up all my grief, my God. Around the holidays, I remember having to take that triplet stroller back after we lost Lydia. That was probably the worst day of my life, taking that triplet stroller back to the store. And I remember it was on the back of I had a big truck because I had to buy a big truck when I had all these. Suddenly I went from 1 kid, Caleb, to 4 kids, triplets. And I remember putting the thing in this big truck, and I pulled I pulled the thing out the truck, and I set it on the ground, the triplet stroller, and I looked at it, and I just punched the box. Because I had done my daughter's funeral, I had stood up. And I want to say this to some of you men. Sometimes the goal isn't just to get through it, right? Or stand strong. There's times where you can't stand strong. There's times where you're not strong. And you got to be able to know that and accept that. And know this, you don't always have to be strong. Who made up that rule that told you got to be strong? No. See, we hear that a lot. And the sad thing about it is a lot of times when it's coming out somebody's mouth, I got to be strong, you can hear their voice cracking because they want to cry and let it go. While they're saying, I'm just being strong, you can hear them breaking down. Right? So what is strength? Is strength acting like this didn't happen? Is strength acting like this didn't hurt? No, that's not strength. Strength is realizing, man, this does hurt, right? Dealing with this holiday grief, it does hurt, and knowing how to face it and accepting it, and don't think you're weak because of how you feel, right? So the first thing we got to do is we have to acknowledge grief. We have to acknowledge grief and put away the pressure to be strong. No, that's bad pressure. And again, I want to say this to some of you that are just coming in. It don't matter how long ago you lost your loved one. This is an issue that you can't just ignore. Let me see in the chat. Good morning. Good morning. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Praying. Thank you, my brother. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, man. Well, listen, y'all, I'm doing this show for us. Yeah, grief is real, y'all. Grief is real. Grief is powerful, and it will break you if you don't perceive it correctly, right? It will break you. So let me get into this a little further. There's no right way to grieve either, right? That's another myth. There's so many myths around grief. I know people have written books and all this, but grief is different for every person, right? There are people that will tell you how to grieve. There are people that tell you how long you need to grieve, you know? And that's something that we go through, you know, and people don't know how to grieve. There's different ways to grieve. You might not grieve like somebody else. You know, somebody else might need to sit there and just be, right? I know me, I needed to move. I needed to move and shake. Someone would tell me, hey, that's not grieving. Well, what does grieving look like? Who made it up? You understand what I'm saying? Who made up what grief looks like? You understand? So you got to be able to tap into that. If grief looks like you taking a jog, then jog. If grief looks like you saying, you know what, I can't cook today. I can't cook Thanksgiving dinner this year. I can't do Christmas dinner this year, y'all. Listen, I know everybody loves this certain pie, but I can't do it. Know that that's okay. Listen, no matter how much your family wants or needs, and no matter how joyful it is, if you need a moment and you can't cook a certain meal because it's too triggering, or you can't decorate this certain thing because it's too triggering, accept that. And don't let anybody tell you that you should be okay. You know, sometimes being okay is grieving how you need. You understand? Right? I know for me, I used to cook a big meal every year. Make Thanksgiving Eve was my time. I would cook. I can't do it. I can't do it, right? And I'm not doing it. I asked my family, what y'all doing? Oh, well, we cooking over here. All right, I'll stop by here and I'll do this, right? Because that's how I have to handle it. I have to preserve myself, and there's nothing wrong with preserving yourself. It's grief, ladies and gentlemen, and it's real, okay? It's real. You see? So you got to take tangible steps. Tangible steps is saying what you can and cannot do. Right. So let's get into it. I'll get back to the chat in a minute. Number 3, holiday triggers. Now, loss is not the only grief during the holidays, right? See, we talk a lot about people dying during the holiday, or people that are gone, and we say, well, I grieved them and I hurt. That's one hurt. But there's other stresses that come around the holidays, y'all. It is. Is other stresses, not only the loss of loved ones, but also the sense of loneliness comes over certain of us during the holidays, right? It's not just the loss of a loved one. It's a couple things we grieve during the holidays. So I want to let you know that. Some of you are grieving and during the holidays, and you're saying, well, I ain't lost nobody. Why do I feel like I feel? There's something about the holidays that provoke all kinds of feelings, y'all. It's not just about the loss. Loneliness, family tensions during the holidays. You know, around this time, you got to think. Now, all year, you didn't have to think about it. Now, during this holiday time, you got to think about who don't deal with who, and who don't talk to who, and who ain't dealing with who, and who ain't, you know, who I can invite, who I can't invite. Can I invite them and invite them too? You know, it's all kinds of things we deal with other than just family loss. We deal with financial stress. That's grief. That's grief when it comes around and you wanted to do certain things for certain people and it's not there. The financial stress that comes with it. right? Unmet holiday expectations. When you know what my kids wanted this and you know this person wanted this and some of y'all still, your parents still alive and they want this and you feel pressure because they've been so good to you and now you want to be good. It's a lot of things. And you got to be able to know that the in order to deal with this grief, don't try to overburden yourself. You're already grieving. Why would you try to overburden yourself, with these holiday issues? You already have struggle, right? Don't put more struggle on you. Putting more struggle on you to get through this holiday grief is not going to help you get through it. It's not. It's not going to help you get through it, right? Another issue that people deal with, other than the loss of people that they grieve during the holidays, is excuse me, is not only dealing with broken relationship or singleness or not having a relationship. You understand? Let me go through them again. Lost loved one isn't the only grief during the holidays. Loneliness becomes a grief. Family tension becomes a grief. Financial strain becomes a grief. All right. Being single, right? When you're seeing and that's hard, y'all. We joke about it. I hear a lot of jokes. You see a lot of jokes on social media where people like, oh, I ain't got nobody, and we joke it, but that's deep pain for a lot of people, right? Ladies and gentlemen. It's not just the ladies, gentlemen. I'm streaming from the Dear Sister and Dear Brother podcast this morning, y'all, right? It's not just the ladies dealing with singleness. Even as a man, you want somebody to care about you enough to go get your favorite thing. And sometimes not having that, especially if you had a hard year and you done worked hard and you done gone through some stuff and you hit this year end, where we can all sit back and take that end of the year breath. For some people, there's no end of the year breath because I'm still holding it, waiting for somebody to show love to me, or wishing I had somebody to come by or sit there and drink a glass of wine with me, or just a holiday joke, or catch my favorite movie. You understand? There's many griefs that come with the holidays, not just losing people. Sometimes the biggest grief during the holidays is losing yourself. For some of us, you're not the same person you used to be during the holidays. You used to laugh and joke and be excited. Now you don't feel that anymore. Sometimes the grief is loss of the connection you had with the holidays. And how do you get that back? Acknowledge that you grieve it. Acknowledge that it hurts. Stop the tough girl act. Stop the tough guy act. Stop I'm just going to make this mac and cheese and I'll be cool. No, you're going to cry in that mac and cheese. You understand? Oh, I'm straight. I'm just going to go to all these holiday parties. No, I'm good. Oh, I'm good. I'm just going to get drunk, man. Look, my cousin and them going to come over with that good and we just going. You understand? A lot of times that's the way that you deal with the pain. A lot of people deal with the pain that way, right? Addiction. Oh man, listen, let's get into it, because this is not a small thing. And this grief thing leaves up a big open door for the enemy of your soul and the enemy of your mind to mess you up. And you figure they come back to back to back. So you're going from Thanksgiving, you're going to Christmas, you're going to New Year's, and then some of you have birthdays in this section of time. It's a lot going on. And listen, the rates of suicide go up during this time. The rates of depression go up. See, this is why we can't ignore it and we can't just pray it away. We got to talk about it. We got to find ways to deal with it, right? So number one, I want to say this to some of you. You should start preparing for your triggers early on. Before you start going to these holiday parties, before you start going to this person's house and that person's house, sit down and think first. Sit down and think. Before you just let Thursday come and you get dressed and go to 5 different houses, sit down and think first. Sit down and say, you know what? Do I need to still make the same moves this year that I made last year? Do I still need to go to these places? Well, somebody might be offended if I don't show up. Forget people being offended, right? You will never heal from grief worrying about people's being offended at the fact that you are grieving. You'll never heal, right? So sometimes you got to go and you got to think, do I go here? Do I still stop by here? Right? Some stuff needs to be taken off your agenda. Right? Some of them visits need to be taken off your agenda. Hey, listen to me, y'all. I give you permission to take some of those things you feel like you must do off your agenda. The other day, I was walking through the house, and there's a event every year, right? This is particularly during the holidays, but there's an event every year that I have to go to. And I decided the other day, I said, this particular event makes me grieve every time I'm there. It really freaking, And I decided the other day, I'm not doing that. And I came up with a master plan on how to handle it. You have to give yourself that much love that you sit down and don't just throw yourself in the blender of this thing. Don't just sit down and throw yourself in the blender of holiday pain. Consider where you'll go. Consider where you won't. Consider where you'll just drop something off or drop a card and, right? Consider that. That's okay. That's okay. What's not okay is trying to make sure everybody's happy while you go home and sit in a bucket of grief. That's not fair to you. All right? And let me look in the chat. Let me look in the chat. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning, Ron McGee. Let me see. Be thankful for your triggers. It shows you where you still need to grow. Absolutely. Right? It shows you where you still need to grow, but it also shows you where you don't need to go. Y'all hear me? You hear me? Sometimes your trigger is to show you not where you don't need to go. Okay, right? Because there's some places, Ryan, where you can grow. There's some places where there's no growth there. You stop being a part of that because it won't help you grow. And that's okay, y'all. You got to know that. All right. So let's deal with this coping strategies. How do we cope? Like I just said, make certain decisions. Sit down and decide where you're going, where you're not going. Sit down and decide what you're going to be a part of and what you're not going to be a part of. That's part of growth. That's part of growth. That's part of adulting. That's part of caring about you. Okay. Number 2, start new things. Start new traditions. Sometimes you can get so bound up. If you're on YouTube right now, hit the like button. Hit the like button. It tells YouTube we got something good going on. Hit that like button. All right. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button for me. And hit the like button because you like the show. Right? Share the show to other people you think will grow from this too, y'all. If you share this, even if they're not up right now in their sleep, you share it anyway. That way people can see this later on, because I don't know if a lot of people are going to touch this topic. Social media is full of trash now. I don't know if people are going to touch this topic, but since we're doing a whole show on it, share the show. Because there's millions of people that need this talk right now. All right. Millions of people that need this talk right now. All right. So again, the coping skills, decide where you're going, decide where you're not. Right. Create new traditions. If there was a certain tradition you had, create a new one. Create a new tradition. This is what I'm going to do. Right. And creating a new tradition is not about ignoring the old. Don't think that creating a new tradition is ignoring what your mom used to do, or your dad or grandpa or your aunt or whoever you lost. Don't think that that's disrespectful to them. No. What it is I'm honoring the past, but building a new future at the same time. You see, I'm honoring the past and I'm building a new future at the same time. See, new traditions allow you to look forward to this thing without trying to look in the past and bring yourself. Every year you're doing this, trying to bring yourself in and bring yourself out. No. Create a new tradition so you have something to walk to. And then that way you can carry great memories of that person. You can carry great memories into the future, right? But not walk into the future staring dead at the past, right? So new traditions is a new one, right? It's very important. Take good care of yourself. We talked about that already. Take good care of yourself. Write down how you feel, right? A lot of people talk about journaling. Sometimes you need a journal just for the holiday time, right? Write down how you feel. And then every year you see your perspective changing, that you're not there anymore. Sometimes you need to see yourself change. Y'all hear me? Sometimes you need to see yourself transition into better days, right? And that way you're not guessing, am I better this year? Am I still dealing with this thing? Am I better? No. When you journal that thing, you can see, my God, I am much better than I was 2 years ago. And then you celebrate that. That's a way through. Again, I'm not just talking, y'all. I lost my mother, my father, my daughter, my aunt, my uncle, and I preached all their and right. So I ministered all their funerals, y'all. Let me make sure. Let me make sure I'm good. Sorry, excuse me, y'all. Let me make sure my mic just knocked it over. I want to make sure I'm still good. Okay. All right. And so take good care of yourself. All right. Let me end with this. Grief is a part of life. Grief is not a curse. Grief doesn't come from the enemy, right? For some of you religious people, don't rebuke grief or don't say it's the enemy. Grief is part of life. Just as much as living, grief is a part of life. So understand that, right? You're not alone in this. That's why I told my story. You're not by yourself. That's why I wanted to share my story about all the grief I had to carry, because you're not by yourself. You're not alone in this. And that's the first thought that comes to your mind. I'm alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. There's millions of people dealing with this thing. That's why I want to do this podcast, just to gather folks, right, that have to face this thing. Understand this. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. Healing does not mean forgetting. It doesn't. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. Like I told you, it's moving into a new tradition, right? Honoring the past while building a new tradition. There's no problem with that, right? No problem with that. All right. let me see. Let me check. All right. All right. Good morning. Facts. Journaling can be used as a tool for healing and keep reflecting. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, y'all. Absolutely, y'all. All right. And so I'm not going to do the advice this morning. But I'm going to pray. I'm going to pray for y'all before I go. Great show. Great show. I want to be able to go enjoy my holiday and my family before everybody gets up. This is my morning time where I have a time. Don't have to rush to get the kids to school or anything this morning. But I wanted to just pause y'all and do this show. All right. Friday, I'll be back with Relationship Friday. Right. We're going to talk about Relationship Friday. We'll do Relationship Friday. And I'll probably do that later than 6 a.m. so people could be a part of that show. But thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out this morning. I hope you really got something from the show. I wanted to deal with this. Let me go back through them right quick. Number one, I'm helping people deal with holiday grief, right? So number one, acknowledge your grief, right? Don't feel the pressure of standing strong. Don't feel the pressure to suppress your feelings. Number two, identify your holiday triggers. Know that it's coming on so you're not falling apart, right? And rescue yourself before you go down. If you feel that trigger coming, take a break. If you feel that trigger coming, stop making the cake. If you feel the trigger coming, stop making the pie. If you feel the trigger coming, take a walk, take a drive, right? Love yourself. Don't feel like you got to fight your way through your triggers. You can only damage yourself that way. All right. Number four, coping strategies. The coping strategies are what? Loving yourself, loving the people around you, right? Taking care of yourself no matter what happens. Number five, open conversations. Have an open conversation with people about how you feel, right? Not with people who don't want to hear, don't want to understand, but have an open conversation with other people that feel the same way you do. A lot of times you'll sit in a room and it'll be 3 to 4 people all feeling the same way. And we're all trying to laugh or joke or drink past the pain. Sometimes a good open conversation involves healing, especially in the family. All right. Let me see. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Yolanda, my dear sister. Let me pray for y'all and then I'll go. Father, thank you so much for my friends on YouTube, on the Dear Brother podcast, the Dear Sister podcast. Thank you for my brothers and sisters, for my friends on Facebook and people who will watch watching this live stream, and my friends that will watch it later on. I pray that this teaching on holiday grief will help people understand that they're not alone, help people understand that they don't have to suppress or act like they're not hurt. I pray for each and every one of them for tomorrow, that things that they anticipate, I pray that they will guard themselves. I pray that they will protect themselves. I pray that they would consider this year where they go and where they don't go, because the self-love. Lord, I thank you for the people that lived. I thank you for the people that passed away. But just as we talked about, there's other things that we grieve: money during the holidays, pressure to be everywhere during the holidays. I pray that this be a year that we take the pressure off ourselves so we can enjoy our holiday. Lord, I thank you for my great friends. I thank you for my brothers and sisters, and I pray great grace upon them. I pray that tomorrow will be different. I pray that Christmas will be different. Lord, I thank you for your grace. I thank you that you do all things well and that you love these people and they love you too. Lord, thank you. I pray that this day be a blessing for them and tomorrow be a bigger blessing. I pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. I love y'all a whole lot. Thanks for hanging out this morning. And remember, always remember, y'all, you matter to me. Just make sure you matter to you. All right. Ladies, remember, ladies. Let me go to my show clothes for the ladies. Ladies, always remember you're worth it. You're worth it to me. Just make sure you're worth it to you. And in my close to you, what do we always say? Y'all say it with me. Yesterday was history and tomorrow is a mystery. All we got is right now. What you gonna do with it? I'd say treat yourself well. I love y'all. I'll see y'all Friday. Have